All right. So I'm just letting in the last of our people who are gathering. And Ashleigh, do we want to go ahead and say hello and start welcoming?
Let's do it. Hi, everybody. I'm Ashleigh Renard. Lots of familiar faces here. Allison and I are really excited to be seeing you guys here again. What is our fourth Q&A, Allison, of the Writer's
Episode
Bridge?
4.
Episode 4. And Allison and I are on opposite tracks as far as our books coming out into the world. I signed with my agent with almost no platform because my agent believed in my memoir, believed in the writing, and really thought the story would sell itself. So now I am working, now that it's on submission, I am working to build a bridge to my readers and to build my bridge to other writers as well, because I came from a different industry.
And I myself ended up selling my book, which comes out in March from Woodhall Press. It's called 7 Drafts, Self-Edit Like a Pro from Blank Page to Book. And my book is actually a platform-driven book, and my agent signed me based purely on my query letter and my platform, because boy did I slave over that proposal, and boy did I discover she had not actually read it before she signed me. However, my book is platform specific. I needed to establish myself as someone who can give writing advice and people will listen to it or take it seriously, or at least take it under consideration, or hey, argue vigorously with it. Also a valid choice. And so platform became important for me to sell this book in a way that it's not necessarily important for people as you begin to write your book. And platform's also really different for fiction and nonfiction. For nonfiction people, we definitely need some way to identify who our readers are and how to reach them. And for fiction people, write the best book you can. And in fiction terms, building platform is more about gathering a group of people who will help promote your book when the time comes out. So today we're going to talk about how to get out to your readers' world and how to bring them back into your world. Ashleigh, will you give us the rundown on our easy, quick strategy for how to do social media and platform without it taking over your life?
So we say find your readers, keep your soul, because when you get started on social media, it can be a slippery slope into self-doubt and wondering if you've ever connected with a real human in your life before, because it seems like sometimes you're posting into a void. What we have suggested is start with 15-minute blocks in a day. Find comp accounts. So that means find writers who are like you, just like you would find comp titles for your query letter or your proposal. Find comp accounts on social media, follow them, engage in the comments, engage in the discussion. That's where you will find readers who are similar to your ideal reader.
And that way you're not counting on your own fame to draw people to come check you out. You're engaging with people in a space that they have already chosen to go to. It's like meeting somebody at a party, but you didn't have to throw the party yourself.
Absolutely. And we're talking about a couple parties we're going to throw ourselves today, like building the website and building your email list. But those are structures that it's not true that if you build it, they will come. You still need to go out and build the bridges to your ideal readers. And then we're going to tell you what the email list and what the website can do for you after you've gone out and connected with people, how you can keep that connection and build it stronger.
Yeah. Couple of quick housekeeping things. We always cover a lot, and very often people go, oh no, there's so much information, it's crazy. Don't feel overwhelmed. We will send you a link to the recording after this. It usually comes out the next day. Sometimes it's the day after. You'll be able to watch this again and plan to watch it again. When I'm watching a video for learning, I very often end up listening to it while I'm cooking dinner or washing the dishes, because it lets me kind of soak in the information again. And we also want to say too, you will also get links to the previous 3 episodes. So you can always go back and see anything you feel like you missed. Last meeting, we covered cross-purposing and cross-posting content. So how can you automatically funnel it from channel to channel, as well as how can you take one idea and write several different posts or several different platform things that go with it. We also talked about the idea of content buckets, that everybody has their personal magazine, and the topics that a magazine about you would be about are the kind of things that you want to be posting about on social media and sharing in your newsletter and on your website. So for example, I think Stephanie Weaver is in here tonight. Stephanie's content buckets are cookbooks, migraine headaches, and health and well-being. And so she shares some personal stuff, but she also shares a lot of stuff that's driven in those categories, which is also what her books are about. Ashleigh, do you have anything you want to add before we get into talking about websites big time?
Just like Allison said with the content buckets, keep it really simple. You don't have to recreate yourself as a writer or a creator. Think about the things you already love, your passions, what you write about. I can't remember who said it, but they said every writer writes the same book over and over and over, and we sort of do, right? We take our unique take on the world and we tell different stories to try to share our insights with other people, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
One of the things I find too is when I'm doing my writing stuff, people also like to hear about the other stuff I'm doing from that perspective. So if you follow me on Instagram, I sometimes post about my previous career as a circus performer. I sometimes post about stuff that's going on in Dubai. People are genuinely interested in your life and in your work and in the stuff that you do. So when you're starting to build a website is basically a calling card. And these days, a website kind of serves the same purpose that a business card used to serve, where you don't have to write all your information down on a scrap of paper. You can say to people, oh, I'm, www.whatever.ashleighrenard.com. When you're doing your website, it does not have to cost a fortune and it does not have to be super complicated. And what it comes down to is, do you want to spend your time or do you want to spend your money? So you can definitely throw someone somewhere between $300 and $2,000 US dollars if you are looking for somebody else to just build you a website. If you do that though, it's really important to get someone who will show you how to update your website, because every time you publish something new, you want to link to it on your website. Every time you get a nice new photo, you don't want to have to pay somebody by the hour to do the updates for you. So if you do purchase a website, get them to show you how to use it. If you want to build your own website, there are a lot of ways to do that. And you can do something as simple as Squarespace or Wix, where your choices are kind of confined by what those services offer, but it's pretty much drag and drop. What you see is what you get, and they're not super expensive either. You can also do something like WordPress, where there are beautiful themes. And in fact, we're going to show you some websites tonight, and a couple of them use the exact same WordPress theme. And it's kind of neat to see how they've interpreted it in different ways. Or if you want to get really complicated, you can use a tool like Joomla or Bootstrap. And if those words don't currently mean anything to you, that is A-okay. They do not need to mean anything to you. If you're curious about Bootstrap and you want to talk about it later, let me know. I will tell you, if you do anything yourself, it is very normal to occasionally hit a speed bump that takes 3 hours to fix. And the more actual coding you yourself have to do, the more likely you are to hit one of those bumps. It does not make you dumb, and it does not make you not able to do it. It is perfectly normal. And I know we have some people here who are really familiar with computers and actually do code. And I bet you guys can also understand you just hit coding bumps sometimes. It just happens. And it is very much like wrestling with a scene in your book that isn't quite going right, or figuring out a plot twist that you really need. You're like, I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on. Let me try this. Let me try that. Let me try this. Aha, that fixed my problem. I'm not quite sure why it worked, but it sure did. Ashleigh, what did you use to build your website?
I use WordPress, and my coding abilities are very limited. So in the WordPress theme that I use a lot of drag and drop. And I have used a lot of plugins to add a shopping cart to my site, to add widgets, to add menus in places that I want menus, related posts, things like that for when I blog on my site. And it's the same thing. Sometimes I'll try a plugin. I look for ones that are highly rated, and sometimes I hit a snag that makes me want to become a Luddite. Quit computers forever. Sometimes I just move that plugin aside and go for the next one, and things will click into place. Some are not very intuitive. And I've built all my website things myself, including my bit of e-commerce. and it is doable. For me, I want the ability to go change things and tweak things anytime I want, rather than putting in a service call to my website person and then having to wait for them to do it.
When you do your website, you need a domain that is a permanent ongoing domain. So not the title of your book. You really do want a domain that is specific to you as an author. Ashleigh, how did you go about buying AshleighRenard.com?
I deal with HostGator. So I got coachashleigh.com and AshleighRenard.com, and they both went to the same place because this is when I was still coaching figure skating, which was my profession for a couple decades. And a lot of my empowerment work and workshops and things were hosted there. So HostGator is where I got my domain names. It's also where I purchased my hosting package. And I find that is a nice one-stop shop with good customer service for all of the things that I need, including scanning for security threats and things like that.
And what did you plug into a Google search engine to find out where to purchase a domain name?
I think actually I just went to AshleighRenard.com and something popped up. Not a, this isn't a domain. You could buy it here, you could buy it there. And I had done my skating club's website through HostGator. So I went there and purchased the domains. I've even purchased domains that I haven't used yet because I want them to direct to AshleighRenard.com when my book comes out and for other projects.
So somebody's asking, they created a very basic site on WordPress, but when they Google their name, the site doesn't show up in the options. Why is this not happening? So it takes a while for Google to get to know you and to start sending people directly to your website. I find that it helps if you Google your name and click on your own website every couple of days, because it helps teach Google that you're there and that's what people are looking for. It also helps if you put links to other websites, like for example, places where you've published your work, places that you recommend as resources to other writers. For example, I have a link to Scrivener because it's a program that I recommend a lot, and I can say to people here, you can click through to Scrivener, because Google is looking for how do the strands in the web, which is a great metaphor in this case, all connect back to you as well. So it will take a little while for Google to start recognizing you. When you set up your website, you need a couple of basic things. You need your name and you need a tagline that says what the heck it is you do. So if you are a writer and you have something specific that you write, Erin Zimmerman has a great tagline. It says essays on science and life. This is what she does. And this is called your hero image, like it's the big standout image. So you want your name, you want some kind of tagline. Here we have Stephanie Weaver, advocate, health and wellness. Here we have Terry Ott, something to say, honest words about religion, scripture, and life. We know what's happening in this website. We know why we're here. We know what we're here to see. So as you guys are putting it together, think about if somebody only saw the very first page of your website, would they understand who you are and what you do? You're also going to want a bio on your website somewhere. You'd like us to be able to see a little bit about you. So this is Nina Lichtenstein's website. She's got an about. Usually bio is labeled about. Sometimes it's labeled bio. And this is going to tell us about Nina Boog Lichtenstein, whose name I am probably massacring. And I'm sorry, Nina, I'm just going to call you Nina from here on out. So the nice thing that Nina's got going on here too is it's a nice large font size. One of the biggest challenges with making a website is you really do want to be nice to the people who have forgotten their reading glasses today. And whatever font size you're making, go ahead and up it one more font size. It's like a PowerPoint slide. Really, the font can never be too big. The other thing to keep in mind is you'd like a sense of there's a headline that is one kind of text, and there is the body text that we're reading that is another kind of text. And that's a way that people get visually navigated through your website. It's also important to have a good, clear, professional looking photo. And I say professional looking. You don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money on getting a photo taken here. Phones are so good with cameras these days that if you go out on a nice bright day early in the morning or around dusk when it's not like bright sunlight in your face, but the light is really pretty, put on your makeup, put on an outfit that you like a lot. If you are male, get your nearest female friend to powder your nose a little bit and powder your forehead a little bit so you're not shiny. And then take 100 photos, because it's going to take you the first 30 photos to get over feeling weird and posy and like, oh, this isn't something I get to do. This is something famous people get to do. And then around photo number 50 or so, it'll start to feel a little more natural and you'll start to have fun with it. And if you take 100 photos with a decent background and a decent outfit, there will be at least one photo that looks like a professional headshot. Ashleigh, did you get professional shots taken?
I did get professional shots taken, but most of the photos on my social media are just shot with my iPhone. First thing, take the phone and wipe it off on your shirt, because the camera that you're using is probably dusty, because our phones live with us and move around with us. So make sure the camera is clean, because even if you're in good lighting, you may not get a good shot if it has a bit of grime on it. So clean it off and then practice taking different angles, slightly different angles like this. If you're backlit or the light's too bright on the subject, no amount of editing is going to make it look how you want it to. You know, just work with the light. Also, if you have an iPhone 11, try it on portrait mode. If we're looking at my photo here on my website, you'll see the background is blurry and I, the subject, am clear. This is a professional photo, but you can get a similar effect to this on an iPhone 11. I'm sure Androids have similar features for portrait mode. That really gives it a more professional look.
And we're going to talk more about the actual nature of your newsletter, but you'd like to be able to find where is the newsletter and how do I get it? So I'm scrolling through right here with Stephanie Weaver's site. I'm seeing a cool picture that I think is Venice. There's her books, which is kind of neat. There's this kind of swirly thing going on. She's a speaker. There's a cool video, which is nice if you can embed a video. She's an advocate. She writes about diet and health. She's got this beautiful, nice, big, clear font that's really easy to read. It is dark black or gray text on a white background. However, I don't know if Stephanie has a newsletter because I'm not seeing where to sign up for it. So if Stephanie does have a newsletter and she wants people to sign up for it, that needs to be more prominent. I was really struck by something that Jane Friedman said, where she said she hates pop-ups, everybody hates pop-ups, and yet they made her newsletter sign-ups go up incredibly. So it can be worth it to go pop-up. You also need to embed your socials or at least link them in what's going on. You probably want your blog embedded in there somewhere. You need to sign up for your mailing list. And the only thing you really need to know about SEO, which is search engine optimization, is that you just need to put the words that are what you do on your website. And there are fancy ways that you can do more SEO, like there's places where you can embed your SEO into your website and it doesn't show up in what you've actually written. It's like secret code in the background of your website. You don't really need to know about that just yet. By the time it really matters, you're going to be able to pay somebody to do it. Finally, I would also say, if you're going to sell something, make it easy to give you money. So if you're selling editing services, coaching services, copywriting services, counseling services, any kind of services, make it really clear where people should click to give you money. Over to you, Ashleigh.
Okay, so here we are. When you go to my site for the first time, after you're on it for a couple seconds, this will pop up. You can put in your name and email to get posts delivered to your inbox, or you can X out of that. I do have people sign up on my website for my newsletter, and we'll talk a bit about the newsletter. I only send mine approximately quarterly. I interact with my people more on social media every day, but I want to have those email addresses and I want to have that direct connection. I get a really high open rate and response rate because I don't send it really often. So on my website, I have some blog posts. I have my about me. You can get to them on the sidebar here or at the top. And these are, options that I just dragged and dropped because I don't have very much coding expertise. One of the things that has helped me build my email list and one of the things that people go to my website for is my shop. I have done some things quite backwards. had 425 beta readers before I got an agent, and I have merchandise related to my book before my book is sold. So this is something that people sometimes go to my site for, and it is free publicity for me. Whenever somebody purchases these items, they always tag me when they are wearing it. So this is something that my website does help me with, gives people a place where they can buy these things that have come from memes or articles I've written that were widely shared.
Trina's asking, are there advantages or disadvantages to including your middle initial in your domain name? I would say use what you write under. So for example, the reason I am Allison K. Williams is because when I first started writing, the most prominent Allison Williams was a Miss Virginia who had been busted for having sex in the back of a news van with one of the cameramen. And so I really didn't want to be that person when that came up. And then as I became more known for my writing, Allison Williams, who's the actress who is Brian Williams' daughter and was on the TV show Girls, started to become more prominent. So for me, I picked K partly because it tied me to a friend who is instrumental to my writing life and whose initial is K, and partly because there were no other Allison K. Williams. And so that makes me a little bit easier to remember. And I like K. K is a good letter. So I would say Google your name. And if the person who mostly turns up is you, go ahead and use just your regular name or use what you write under. However, if you Google your name and somebody else comes up like who seems like they're gonna be a more prominent person than you are, or there's some kind of unsavory association with them, go ahead and start using your initial. But whatever you pick, use it as consistently as you possibly can. Put it in your social media bios, put it on your website, and put it on every article you ever write.
So when people come to your site, you want them to be able to find the things that you're offering. Allison has her writing retreats, she has her editing services. You want it to be Grand Central Station for anything people want from you, as well as your social media links. So people can go there and then interact with you, follow you there.
When you are maintaining your website, check all your links once a month. The other thing I highly recommend is if you have stuff that you have written that are posted online, and so many media places and so many literary magazines are 100% online these days, you need to save that page as a PDF. Because one day that site is going to go out of business, or it's going to go under, or it's going to clear out its archives, and then you don't have access to your stuff anymore. So as soon as you get something published, part of your process is PDF that sucker and put it in a file on your computer. Quick clarification, somebody asked what the difference is between linking and embedding. Linking means people have to click something and leave your site or leave the page they're on to go to the other place. Embedding means it's right there. Ideally, your blog is going to be embedded in your website. It's going to be a functional part of your website. You might also want to embed your social media, like when you see people where their Instagram photos pop up on their first page of their website. Okay, so the other thing with the websites is nobody wants to visit your website. Nobody cares. Until you're famous, until you're an author who people are like actively buying your books in many places, nobody's going to bother to visit your website. And so when people say things like, oh my goodness, I can't get anybody to visit my blog, what am I going to do? Nobody wants to visit your blog. You've got to deliver your blog to them. And so even if your website hosts your blog, you still want to use something like a newsletter, or you want to post to social media every time you post something significant to your blog, or every time you write something anywhere that you'd like to share with people. People are going to be happy to see that you have success, and they're going to want to cheer you on and share in that success with you. And if you're lucky, they'll also promote you to your friends. You must cross-promote though. And one of the ways to cross-promote is to focus on what the reader gets out of it. So if you're a service-oriented writer like Stephanie Weaver and her Migraine Cookbook, like Ashleigh Renard and her memoir about being a perfectionist mom who became the world's worst swinger, it's important to focus on What does the reader get out of coming to read? So when you go to Ashleigh's Instagram and you read her captions, you get, oh, hey, wow, somebody else has those unmotherly thoughts, those unperfect thoughts that I have and that I want to share. When you get Stephanie's newsletter, you find out, oh, there's a new recipe in the migraine cookbook this month. Let me try that. She's helped me with my migraines in the past, and I'd like to help her in the future. If you are not writing service-oriented prose, and a lot of us aren't, some of us are writing science fiction novels, some of us are writing quiet memoirs about our personal internal experience, you still got to think about what's in it for the reader. And ideally, you want the reader to walk away feeling like, oh man, I thought I was the only one who felt like that. And the weird, ironic part is, the more personal you make it, the more readers will identify with it and the more there is in it for them. A story that I used to say is that I had a one-woman show a long time ago, and I told a story about a weird incident in my life where I ended up having a non-sexual hugging session with a long-distance trucker in the back of his cab, and it was just, very sweet and touching and also kind of weird and unusual. And for me, that was a really incredibly unique story. I had so many people come up to me after shows and go, oh my God, that happened to me. You told my story. So I would say, no matter how weird you feel like your life is, no matter how crazy or unusual, go ahead and tell the truth. Even if you're writing fiction, tell the truth about your life when you're sharing before you start sharing your book. Ashleigh, you're really good at that.
Thank you, Allison. And I was just thinking, there's this one novelist, Chloe Benjamin, who I love on Instagram. Chloe wrote The Immortalist, which was an instant New York Times bestseller. She does not talk about The Immortalist on her social media. She talks about her cats and knitting and her hunky husband and how she's obsessed with gymnastics, even though she was never good as a kid. And just Chloe shows up on her social media every day showing those darn cats, things that she's just really obsessed with in a real way. She's real, self-effacing, funny, and I can't wait to read her next book. She also talks about how writing on her computer gives her migraines. She has chronic migraines, and the different things that she tries, blue light blocking glasses, different ergonomic setups, so that she can write and physically her body feels okay.
Yeah. So a couple of people have asked, and I know we've gotten this question on the sign-up sheet as well, what do you do when you write more than one thing? Well, the first thing to remember is, if you write anything for children, they're not finding you through your website. The people who are finding books for children are children's parents and children's librarians, and you need to appeal to them, not to children. So it's great to list, hey, I'm a children's author, but you don't have to worry too much about making it appealing to the actual readers. If you are writing in more than one area, go ahead and tag that as much as you can. It also may be worth having either two separate pages on your website. Say you write travel and you also write cookbooks. For some people, it may even get to the point where you want two different sites that link to each other. So for example, I have a main website, and if you've seen my website recently, it's really old school. I'm building a new one as we speak. My website says writer, editor, speaker, coach. I put all that stuff on one website, but when it was time to market retreats, that feels like a separate business to me. And so my retreat website links to my writing website links to my retreat website, but it is a separate website with a completely different look. And I'm going to share screen with you guys again, because we actually have from somebody who handled that really well with their book. And I think this is a way that you guys might be able to handle it as well. So we have here Cheryl, whose last name I'm going to take my very best stab at. I'm going to pronounce it Litjen, and I'm going to assume that she's Dutch in some way. Okay, so just go with me, and Cheryl, you can send me hate mail later if that's not the case, or just give me a lesson in pronouncing your name. So Cheryl has this lovely website with a really specific color scheme here. And then Cheryl also has a website that's specific for her book, which same layout, but different color scheme. So it makes it clear that we've navigated to a different topic on the site. And color coding while keeping the same layout is a really good way to do that, because it lets the reader know, hey, You're still in the same place. You're still with the same people. You've just changed topics right now. You're looking at a different topic. Ashleigh, you want to add anything on there? And then I'm just going to like walk through a couple of websites real quick.
We just have a question in the chat box about writing things that are controversial and dealing with the haters. A lot of the things that we may choose to write, we may have the fear is controversial. What Allison said was the deeper we can go into our personal reflections, the more likely we are to draw other people to us. So if you feel really strongly about something and you want it to come out in your writing, I would say do it. If I am personally connected to someone who is commenting, sometimes I will engage with them. Just the past 24, 48 hours, I've had some trolling type comments on Instagram that I immediately block and delete. And sometimes I will go off the comment thread and speak to somebody just in DMs, if it is somebody from, you know, a friend of a friend or somebody I know in real life, and let them know there, okay, this is where our conversation is staying now. Like, do not come back to my page and, you know, provoke my followers or my audience.
So Ashleigh makes a really great point. If you focus it as protecting your audience rather than reacting as your wounded self, it's much less hurtful to deal with haters. I also want to say haters are a good sign, because when somebody takes the time and energy to write you something mad, you touched them where they live. You poked a stick into something that they care about, and you did it in a way that they took the time and energy to sit down and angrily type out their little complaint. So take it as a good sign. I like to say, if everyone likes you, you're not very good. Ideally, you want people to love you, and maybe 10% of the people hate you because you've taken a strong position and you have something powerful to say. And the last thing I'll say about haters is you get used to it. Like for a while, I kept an anonymous blog that had a lot of sex in it. And the first time an anonymous commenter called me a selfish slut, it really hurt my feelings a lot. And it took me a while to get over it. When the 50th commentator called me a selfish slut, it was more like, really? That's the best you got? I've heard that before, dude. Come up with something new. You really do thicken your skin. So think about protecting your readers, take hate comments as a good sign, and know that you will get used to it. They will stop hurting as much. And it's also okay to have your feelings hurt by them. You know, write about it. It's a good thing to write about. Ashleigh, anything else about websites before I whip us through 10 websites really fast with like shotgun comments?
Let's whip.
Okay. All right. So I just opened up a bunch of random websites from people who are on our list. And here's what we're seeing. Stephanie Weaver, we kind of looked at. The main challenge with Stephanie Weaver is it's purple. There is another version of this front page that has Stephanie's picture on it. So can you guys see what I mean about how like, this is a perfectly fine photo of Stephanie, but all of a sudden it is one element too many. So shotgun element number 2, Erin Zimmerman, Essays on Science and Life. Great tagline, great photo. And I think Erin took that photo herself. Very, very clear where we're going to go. There's a newsletter. There's a contact me. Notice there's white space. White space is restful. It's the same reason why people click on Instagram pictures that have lots of negative or neutral space in them, because white space rests the eyes. Her stuff is really clear. These are the things that she has written. Here is where you can click to go get them. And here are some categories with some icons where you can find some specific things she's written. Heading through the shotgun. Kimberly Noel Zeller, this is really cool. I love the little kid looking back. I love that it says something about her family. Unearthing the extraordinary in the ordinary. I would make this tagline a little bit more conspicuous with a brighter color in the background, because it's still not going to upstage the photo. The photo is a hero image. And she's got some nice blog posts right here and some pretty pictures. Nice color scheme, restful, looks serious and professional. Over here, Shannon Luter's Manuel. Okay, so Shannon's got great custom art here. Like she says, the illustration above is courtesy of the talented Giselle Potter, who created the image for my New York Times piece about my grandmother. However, the first thing I don't see is this charming small-sized cartoon, which is adorable, but it's teeny. The first thing I see is a photo of the water, and I get confused about how is this the art that was drawn for the thing about her grandmother. I also don't know, even though the photo is beautiful, what does it have to do with Shannon? What does it tell me about her work? Here, great photo. Notice that this is probably a personal photo rather than a paid for shot photo, but it's a beautiful photo and you look like you want to get to know her. I'm a freelance writer, editor, sensitivity reader, and California native. Very clear, very easy. She's a member of the Editorial Freelancers Association. And then she's got 3 really clear things here. This is who I am. This is what I do. Here we've got a WordPress template. Same WordPress template. WordPress template. Same WordPress template. So you really can take a basic WordPress template and make it into your own thing. The last thing I want to show you guys is this absolutely beautiful website. I would bet money that this website was expensive. Or Michelle Ruiz-Kyle has a fabulous friend who's an incredible artist. What I love about this is there's beautiful open white space. There's beautiful drawings that kind of show us something about her personality and who she is and tie into what her book is. We can really get a sense of who she is, and the website itself is a pleasure to look at. It's just a really, really beautiful website. Michelle has also done a great thing here, which is she has a short bio and a longer bio. When I'm publishing blogs for brevity, very often someone forgets to send their bio. I need to go to their website and copy paste whatever is there. So it's really handy and useful to have a bio that is easy to copy paste. So we will answer additional questions about websites in the chat, but Ashleigh, will you go ahead and take us into the wonderful world of Mailchimp and newsletters?
Yes, I would love to. So we sent you the Zoom link because we have your email address. Everyone, yes. And these are some of the things that you can do when you have your audience and readers' email address. Now, the days when like people went through their blogs that they love to read every morning are sadly gone. But the value of having the email addresses of your audience has not gone away. It's probably become more valuable. The value is increased because we can send you something directly, either about the Writer's Bridge, or if we have book updates and we would like to share information with you guys, exciting info when Allison's book is ready for pre-order. Having the email addresses of your audience are super important. There are a couple ways that I've built my email list. The biggest one is building buzz for my memoir and finding beta readers. I offered for people who shared my social media posts during a 2-week period last fall, that anybody who shared my post would get the first chapter of my memoir, and it's very buzzy. It starts at an invite-only sex club in New York City, where we had to send in a bio and headshots to get on the invite list. So it's this short, juicy invitation into the book. At the end of each week, I would choose one person to send my whole manuscript to. This was my draft that I was querying with. This wasn't, a polished, ready to publish manuscript, but a lot of the things I was writing about in the book, I had not openly written about because of family and my job and things like that. So I did want to start building buzz around it. From that, I got 425 beta readers who read the whole manuscript, from people recommending it to their friends, then posting little testimonials in their Instagram stories and tagging me like, oh, I'm on chapter 14. Oh my goodness. And that just built up buzz. And now my mailing list, I have a very high open rate for my mailing list when I send updates. I haven't sent any updated manuscripts, but when I send, oh, this I signed with my agent and this is what's going on, this is how I dealt with my in-laws and COVID, people are really interested because they're invested, sort of like angel investors, those people who come in early to try to like get you off the ground. That's how my beta readers feel now, and they're becoming a strong community for me. A lot of them follow me on social media, but I definitely know that I can get to them directly to share information with them through their email and through my email list.
And the nice thing is Ashleigh is giving away something of value. In this case, a chapter of her book. That's called a funnel, quote unquote, when you are funneling email addresses from the world into your possession. I would say start by putting everyone you ever know and have on your email into your potential email list and invite them to follow your newsletter. Every time you're at a conference, collect everybody's email. But it's also very useful to give something away that people will trade their emails for. I will probably have an ebook sometime in the next little while. I'll probably have a tips sheet. Here at the Writer's Bridge, you guys have all been kind enough to give us your emails. And at this point in Ashleigh and I's careers, your emails are more valuable to us than your money. And that's why this chat is free, because we want to make deposits in the bank of goodwill with all of you so that when the time comes to say, hey, will you please review our books on Amazon, we have built up enough cumulative goodwill to be able to ask you for a favor back.
And so we want to encourage you to think of the same thing. How can you reach out to your audience and give them value week after week? It doesn't have to be an email newsletter every week, but how can you give them value in your posts every day, in your interactions and your engagement in the discussions on comp accounts? And then how can you make them feel like, okay, this is somebody who, when their email comes into my inbox, I definitely want to hit open. I want to at least skim it and see what's there, maybe star it, maybe save it, rather than just clearing it out in the promotions. So think about those things, because all of you are writers and have words to share, stories to share, insight, wisdom, how-tos. What are those things that you can share with your audience? And like Allison said, I think for most of us, building the relationship and sharing a lot of free content is really going to be more beneficial than trying to get a few dollars here and there from people. Even with my merchandise that I sell, I don't get $1 from that. I've made an arrangement. I have somebody who will print and ship on demand, and she gets to retain all of the profit from it, because people wearing my words and talking about my words and posting about it on social media, it's worth way more to me than if I got $10 per shirt.
He asks how big your mailing list is, and it sounds like right now you've got 938 contacts on here, 911 of them are subscribers. But I don't know if Ashleigh does this. I have, I don't know, about that many subscribers to my newsletter. I have an additional Excel sheet of every email I have ever interacted with, other than like straight up businesses that I know won't be interested, because even the people who opt out or don't subscribe or unsubscribe, one day they're going to get one email telling about my brand new book. I'm not going to put them on a list. I'm not going to keep pestering them, but save all of your emails, because even if they don't want your newsletter, it is okay to send them one email when you have big news to announce.
Yes. And so Mailchimp is the only email newsletter service that I've ever used. So I can't really compare it to others. It was just one of the first, one of the biggest. So I'm on the free plan. So in Mailchimp, you have an audience dashboard, okay, where people who have subscribed or unsubscribed are there. Here are the campaigns. So this is the place where I send you guys the link for the call right in here. See, you have the image, all of this. This looks familiar because this is how you got to the call. You can schedule your email. You can have a new campaign set to send for anybody new who has signed up since the last campaign. There's a lot of functionality here that I do not use. It does everything I need and then some.
So why are you building an email list now rather than later when you actually have something to sell? Because you want to build a long, slow path of people who are gradually getting to know you, who are gradually getting to like you and become invested in your words. And so that you can try out, oh, hey, this newsletter maybe didn't work quite so well, but I only sent it to 50 people because that's who's following me right now. The next one will go to 75 people, and it will be better because I will have had more practice. So it's worth it to slowly and gently build this up. When you've got a lot to say, you might want to send bi-weekly or you might want to send monthly. They say that if you send less than monthly, more people unsubscribe because they forget that they subscribed to you. Ashleigh's quarterly. I'm kind of quarterly, and I start all my newsletters with thank you guys so much for sticking with me. It's been a while since I've written. Whether you're going to have a free service or a paid service in terms of subscribers, start with a free service unless you have specific content that you know people are willing to pay for and you can deliver on a regular basis. You don't need Substack, you don't need Patreon unless you have content that people want to pay for and you can commit to producing it on a regular schedule. For now, just use the freedom of sharing your words with the world in a way that is not obligating you to your readers quite so much as charging them to subscribe. The other little tip I give is I very rarely check how many people are subscribed to my newsletter because it hurts my feelings when the number goes down. So I would say maybe every so often check in and go, oh, hey, this is cool. I have 600 today, rather than, oh, yesterday I had 600 and today I have 599. Who doesn't like me anymore? Really just insulate yourself from tracking it constantly because it is very low stakes for us when we first start doing this. The sweet spot for newsletters is 350 to 500 words. More than 500 words and you're asking people to read a blog post, they have invited you into their inbox. Treat that as this is meeting them in the coffee line. So it's only as long a story as you can tell until you both get up to the counter and place your order. Ashleigh, how much is Mailchimp?
I have the free plan on Mailchimp. Sometimes there are changes and I could be grandfathered in on an older plan that under a certain number of subscribers you don't have to pay, but I'm pretty sure I have the free plan on Mailchimp. We have some questions here about, for a newsletter, how much information's in it. Just like Allison said, it is like a blog post or
a short blog post.
Mini. And it's nice to put something on there where someone could click to read more or click to see a video, and Mailchimp will track that for you. Mailchimp will tell you if people never open it. It'll tell you specifically, like if Allison was on my email list, it would tell me, Allison got this email, she opened it, she clicked.
When you're starting with Mailchimp, they will have like an invite email that you can send where you can customize and say, hey, this is my first email to everyone. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're using a service like Mailchimp, you don't have to unsubscribe them because they will opt in. So keep your email list of everyone in like an Excel sheet or a Google Doc or something. Then you're going to import that list into your Mailchimp or into whatever service you're using. And there will be a function in there that lets you import all of your email addresses. Then they take care of opting in. Legally, people need to ask you to send them. So you can send them one email inviting them to subscribe, and then they are not passively just subscribed, they must actively opt in. Legally, you are also required to have a mailing address on the bottom of your newsletter as it goes out, but you can fudge this if you don't want to give your home address. Ashleigh has a PO box at the bottom of her newsletter. My address at the bottom of my newsletter is I can see grass from my window if I stretch, Dubai, UAE. And I feel like that's enough because it's very unlikely that someone is going to come after me and sue me for the content of my newsletter. It's mostly so people can find you if you spam them. And as long as you are not spamming them, you're not going to have that problem. As far as newsletter
content, and if you were going to say that to Allison, so I post very regularly on social media, usually every day, sometimes multiple times a day, just because that is the season of my writing that I'm in. When I was actively working on my manuscript, I did not post that often. But because building a connection with my readers is my primary priority right now, I do post often. So I do not put every social media post or every blog post in a newsletter. About quarterly, when I have something big to say, either I feel it's a good piece that is really going to resonate with my audience, or it's a personal piece to kind of show people where I'm at. Like when I signed with my agent, and 2 weeks later, both my in-laws got COVID. So I wrote a newsletter that said, I got an agent and we got COVID, just to kind of bring people up to speed on what was going on. Anything that you really feel will resonate with them, because when you do jump into their inbox, you want it to be something of value, something that they'll click and they'll feel something from it, and like that they might even respond to you. So saving pieces of value or pieces that you really think are going to resonate is really a good idea.
Somebody asked, should you do a blog or a newsletter? Generally, if you can only do one, do a newsletter, but then cross-post it as a blog post to your website, because that way the people who want to view it will come to you, and the people who have invited you into their inbox will see it there. Posting it to your website also lets people know there is current content on your website.
Another thing about Mailchimp is that I don't find it super intuitive, and I've had to use the tutorial videos for almost everything, and I have to muck around to figure things out. But then it's automatic. So I have stuck with it, but don't feel discouraged if you're on there and you can't really understand it. I've linked my Mailchimp to my pop-up on my website. I have Pop-up Pro, which I think is just a small fee for that kind of pop-up, and then it times and it remembers when people have been to my site, so it doesn't pop up for every user all of the time. And it's very easy to generate the Mailchimp code to then put up in the pop-up. But it just takes a little bit of time to just get things ironed out. And so I send emails to my husband. I'll say, sign up again for my newsletter and you're going to get another email, okay? And you have to have some guinea pigs who will help you out.
Yeah. I use a service called TinyLetter, which is owned by Mailchimp. It is free. It is incredibly simple. It does not have any of the analytical tools that Mailchimp has, but for me it works. And then I keep an Excel sheet that has everybody's name and email and where I met them, so that I can kind of remember who they are. So we're in our last couple of minutes. Does anybody have any final questions? The gist is, have a website, think of it as a calling card, have a newsletter that you send maybe quarterly, maybe a little more often, cross-post your newsletter to your blog, and every time you put something new, go ahead and mention that you've put something new on social media as well. So if I write a nice newsletter, I post it to my website, it might be something that I've also posted to Brevity, I link it to Twitter, I link it to Instagram, all with like different lengths of what is there.
Yeah, so questions here about driving people to mailing list, increasing subscribers who are actually interested in the subject. Jessica, you have a book out and you've had a lot of events. I would say on social media, if that's the place that you are advertising your events, instead of putting a link in your bio, put a comment, DM me for the link to the event. And then when they DM you, say, send me your email and I'll send you the information about, the online event I'm having with Watchung booksellers. And then you have that person's email address and they've already asked you for something. So that's a way, especially on Instagram, where if you don't have 10,000 or more followers, you can't have a swipe up option in the stories for people to go directly to a site. Put a little sticker on there that says DM me, or put it on DM me for info. And when they DM you, and I did that for some people here on Writer's Bridge, I said, you want to know about Writer's Bridge? I was talking about it on social media, on Instagram. DM me, and then when they did, I asked them for their email address and I added them to the list. So
and Stephanie has a great idea here for a giveaway. Have a short PDF with top 10 tips for wrongful convictions, or the 10 things you should know about wrongful convictions, and people will sign up to get something free. If you do a presentation and you want to share the slides with people, get their email address to share the slides.
Especially how your topic ties into the activism that people are more interested in right now, Jessica. I would say a PDF on the 5 actions you can take today. Send me your email address, and then you're giving people that value because they want to figure out how to help.
So guys, as we close, you don't need to sign up again. You will be notified for the next meeting. If you're not getting the emails, check your spam, check your socials, or send us an email. Feel free to reply to the meeting email with any new questions. Our next meeting is going to be October 6th. And guys, we are really close to 500 subscribers to the Writer's Bridge right now. We typically have about 100 who come live and about another 200 or 300 who watch the recording. We are dreaming of reaching 500, so we're going to ask you, if you can, please forward the follow-up email to at least one other writer who also needs this information and who you would like to share this information with. And I'm going to unmute everybody so we can have our happy goodbye. So thank you guys for being here.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Bye,
Thanks for using me as an example.
Bye, Cindy.
Thank you,
Bye,
Stephanie, for being a good
Hey, everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
Stephanie.
This is Margaret's favorite part. This is my favorite part. Bye. Margaret's favorite part.
Bye, Margaret. Bye, Carmel.
I love it.
Awesome.